Hello, everybody, and welcome to this site event, Achieving Inclusion and showcasing the work of youth delegates. The event is jointly organized by the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs and the World Federation of United Nations Associations. My name is Javor Gochev, and I'm very honored to have the chance to do the opening regards together with my colleague.
Hello, my name is Dilian Manolov, and I'm very happy that you're here.
We are the youth delegates from Bulgaria, and in the following few minutes, we'll tell you more about our story, what the youth delegates are actually doing here at the United Nations, and then we'll have the pleasure and honor to introduce the following panelists in the event.
Yeah, actually, it feels very nice that we are here, but the way starts way before it. For me, personally, it started 9 years ago when I was wondering why the things in my country are looking strange. And then I realized that I have to be familiarized with the things called parliament, policy making, and stuff like this. And I did the exactly wrong thing. I started searching through media, why and what's happening actually, and I started writing very long blogs, which anyone read. And then I realized that, okay, I'm an actor and I'm blind. For the first thing, I had to get more experience for acting, I mean. But for blindness, I realized that the Bulgarian Association of People who are blind is not actually working very well. And I collected some friends around me. I collected all my knowledge from the media and from the more reputable sources than the mainstream media, and we started a foundation. A foundation which had to be different, and it was. We delivered education, we delivered teaching skills, adopting skills, and we were different. And we were the people who replaced the old-timer association of people who are blind in Bulgaria. And after this, I started doing more and more regarding my abilities in theater and my abilities as a blind person. And this is how I reached to this place. And it feels very nice that I'm here with you, invited to open this speech and this event. But the way is all long. It's too long. And you can do a lot of thoughts, but search which is your capability and what you're passionate about, and this is the way that you can improve our society.
Thank you very much, Dido. I'm really glad that we are a team together with Dilan because we are very different and this makes us very strong. When I was at high school, I knew that I want to go and study abroad, but I was not that active as a person involved into the social life. But when I went abroad, I started seeing good models, best practices, starting to see how different societies are organized. And then I started thinking, okay, can I go back? Can I do anything about the things that Dido was speaking about? So my activity is being active in the social sphere, working with different NGOs, being involved with social entrepreneurship started when I was studying in the UK. Then I had the chance to go to Denmark and be really involved into entrepreneurship. But my real goal was to go back home, this is Bulgaria, and start supporting the development of the entrepreneurial ecosystem back home. And this is something very, very empowering for myself, having the chance to see different models, how people are doing things, and then try to take the best things, implement them, adapt them, and allow the situation in our country to get better. Why are we saying these things? Because besides telling you our stories, there's a bigger, higher purpose. We are here to talk about social inclusion. And if you may read the concept notes that have been provided to you, social inclusion can be regarded as the process by which various groups of people, no matter of their age, gender, or ethnic background, these people can fully and equally participate in the society. And this is something very, very important. And the Youth Delegates program, the one that we are part of, is a really good showcase of how young people are actually the solution. They are not the problem. Young people are the ones who can really understand the problems of their peers and come up, brainstorm possible solutions with them and work on their implementation. And this is the story, this is the reason why together with Dido we wanted to share these opening remarks with you. It doesn't matter what path you choose, it really matters but what you decide to do and how you want to be involved into the society, whether you want to take an active part or rather watch on the side. But I hope being here that you are very, very active people. Now I have the honor to introduce Maria Storozum. She's from Division for Inclusive and Social Development, and she's taking care of the program for the youth delegates. As we laughed at a few other events, she's the person who's sending the emails late in the evening. So I think this is something very, very particular for her. She does an amazing job to allow us to be as involved as possible here in the process. And then Miss Inga Müller, she's a youth participant assistant in the World Federation of the United Nations Association. So they'll take up on from here and lead you into the process of our event and talking about social inclusion and showcasing the examples from the youth delegates. So thank you very much for being here today with us.
Thank you so much, Javor and Dillian, for that excellent introduction. We hope that you notice that we try to do business differently than usual. Instead of having someone from the UN speak or somebody from a member state speak first, we tried to change it up and have young people speak right from the start of the event to try to encourage that inclusion right from the beginning. So I'm really grateful for that very kind introduction. And as you rightly said, youth delegates are working to showcase that youth are the solutions and not the problem. It is one way, and we'll hear of other ways that young people are involved in their societies to contributing to that solution. The reason we decided to focus on achieving inclusion is that it's integral to our work in the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, as well as to the work of the commission that this side event is housed in as well. And so the Youth Delegate Program, to give a little bit more background, is overseen at a global level by our division, but it's undertaken nationally in different ways, which my colleague Inga will share more about as well. And then, yeah, so I'm really happy to see you here today and to showcase some examples of what young people do in their communities. And as was mentioned, the work actually started before they were youth delegates, and that's how they had knowledge of what was going on in their local communities. So these experiences don't happen in a vacuum. Young people are involved, and it's usually that involvement that spearheads them to become youth delegates. And they carry forward work and highlight work in their mandates of youth delegates. And as well, there's so much work that happens in national context surrounding the work of member states, which we'll hear more about by our colleagues from the delegation of the Permanent Mission of Mexico and from Germany as well, to show that this is part and parcel and the work goes hand in hand, and the member states do work for inclusion, and young people, while they are definitely recipients and beneficiaries of some of the programs, they are active actors in creating those programs and working towards solutions. And with that, I'm going to hand the floor to you, Inga.
Thank you, Marissa. Welcome all of you to our little event. And I will talk briefly on the Youth Delegate Program. I'm currently a Youth Participation Assistant at the World Federation of United Nations Associations and also a Carlo Schmidt Fellow. And with my team, we basically work on enhancing youth participation at the UN and creating spaces for youth. Yes. So I don't tell you anything new when I actually tell you that we're witnessing a demographic bulge with the largest generation of youth ever, and the reality is that this is not really represented in many political institutions on the national and international level. Youth delegates, however, are a valuable resource for promoting inclusive and sustainable development as well as multilateralism. They represent youth of their home countries, and they're very well knowledgeable about the key issues facing their generation. Numerous resolutions of the General Assembly and the Commission for Social Development, which is currently taking place, actually encourages member states to consider including youth into the delegation and to establish a national youth delegate program. And this is where we come to the Youth Delegate Program. The Youth Delegate Program is one tool, basically, to enhance youth participation at the UN and to include youth into decision-making procedures. Youth Delegate Programs, to get into the little technical details, are hosted on the national level, meaning member states are responsible to establish a Youth Delegate Program. They decide who will represent the youth of the country, and they're also responsible to include those chosen youth delegates into their delegation. In countries with the United Nations Association, the UNA is often part of the establishment of those youth delegate programs, as it is a natural space for them to be active. This is, for example, the case in Italy or Serbia. Also, in many cases, National Youth Council or other national structures are assisting with the program. We have a few youth delegates present, you all know best who's the host of your national program. Therefore, as of the characteristics I just described, youth delegate programs vary from country to country, depending on the country's structure, depending on the country's resources. There's no blueprint for youth delegate programs. However, there are some characteristics that are similar comparing all youth delegate programs. Many of them have youth delegate mandated for a period of 1 year or two, and they also choose youth delegates who have been involved with youth issues prior to their mandate. Youth delegates have a twofold mandate. They have a national and an international mandate. The national mandate is raising awareness for UN topics, consulting with national youth, which is actually a lot of effort, advising diplomats on youth-related issues, and reporting from the UN events they're actually visiting. Then the international mandate is the actual participation in the conferences or events on the international level, like the General Assembly or functional commissions of the ECOSOC. They also take part in negotiations of resolutions, and they provide input for the delegation, not only on youth-related issues, but basically on all issues they're knowledgeable of. And they also get the great opportunity to network with UN officials and CSO representatives. As we always say, we're basically two stakeholders that are involved with the Youth Delegate Program. We have DESO on one hand, we have BAFUNA on the other hand. Having two stakeholders involved already indicates that we may have a little bit of different focus on how we work with the Youth Delegate Program. So DESA, via the program on the Youth Unit and the Division for Social Inclusive Development, coordinates the Youth Delegate Program on the global level, and particularly works with the engagement of youth delegates at different events, as already mentioned by Javor earlier. DESA already also liaises with member states and provides guidance on the establishment of programs and publishes documentation about the Youth Delegate Program. And they support youth delegates, including comprehensive briefing materials, orientation sessions when they're coming here to the headquarters, and basically make sure that they find their way safely through the UN while they're here. Vifuna has a little bit of a different approach, which I think is quite helpful to support DESER's coordination work. We actually support young people interested in establishing a youth delegate program, and we collaborate with United Nations Association and that are managing or partly managing or involved in youth delegate programs. We create resources as well, provide guidance to young people, and in addition, we're providing information and briefings, capacity building workshops for youth delegates, and we also have a group of Vifuna Youth Delegate Program multipliers, it's a group of current and former youth delegates that actually are supposed to be advocates for the youth delegate program. We also designed a handbook, which is designed specifically for young people who want to establish a youth delegate program and need some support in finding the step-by-step and how to basically establish it. This was a short overview of the Youth Delegate Program. If you want to have more information on the Youth Delegate Program, we designed a little handout flyer which we spread around the room, and we still have leftover copies. So if you want to know more about DESER or Vifuna and the work of the Youth Delegate Program, feel free to take one of those copies. And with this, I hand back over to my colleague Marissa.
Thank you so much. That information is also available online, and we did put the links in the handouts. They're also available on the Department of Economic and Social Affairs website, as well as Wifuna's website as well. Just to give you, so thank you so much, Inga, for that very comprehensive overview of the different actors involved in creating youth delegate programs. The reason why we wanted to touch a little bit upon about what a program is because we have so many youth delegates in the room today, and we'll hear from some as well, and then encourage the others to participate in the Q&A, is because many are here for the Commission for Social Development, and we really wanted to showcase some of their work because they do have this approach that allows them to work on the international level and also at the national level. So while sometimes there's one or two or even 3 or 4 national youth delegates, they have a multiplier effect in their national capacities. And we'll hear more about how they go on tours and speak with their ministries and really influence that policy at home as well, and really encourage others to be involved in national programs and policies as well. With that, I would really like to introduce my co-moderator, Isabel Tibi, who's a global citizenship education consultant at the World Federation of United Nations at Wifuna. She has a multitude of experience on youth and youth development, and now coordinates Mission Possible, Wifuna's flagship global citizenship education program for high school students.
Thank you, Marissa. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of Wifuna. We strongly believe in youth participation, and in order to, as part of our mission, to work towards a stronger, more effective UN. And it was important for us to also be part of this panel on social inclusion as a way to advocate for greater social inclusion, as a way to make the UN stronger and more effective. We need a variety and diversity of voices from people of all backgrounds, from young people of all backgrounds, in order to work towards achieving our goals, basically. So thank you so far for the contributions, and we look forward to the contributions of our panelists for today. I just want to remind very briefly the objectives of this panel: to discuss in general barriers to social inclusion of youth on the national and international level, examining the possible impact of their inclusion in decision-making processes. This is something that we know often of the barriers, but what is the impact of positive examples of inclusion, and to go from there to have more of those examples going forward. And showcasing, as Marissa said, the work of youth delegates toward inclusion during their national mandates. One thing we felt like was important to remind also and keep present during the conversation today is that we want to showcase the Youth Delegate Program as a tool for social inclusion. Of course, where adults play a role in including youth, this UN Youth Delegate Program, member states, UN, are including young people in the processes, but also the Youth Delegate Program as a tool for social inclusion of young people by other young people and of a diversity of young people from all different types of social groups and cultural groups. And also just generally young people as agents of social inclusion when we look at all of society, basically. They are not just working towards the inclusion of other young people, they are working towards the inclusion of all groups, whether younger than them, same age as them, older than them, of all different types of cultural, religious, different groups, basically. So these are a couple of points we wanted to keep in mind. So with this, it's my pleasure to introduce our first panelist for the day, Mr. Mark Kemperhoff. Has worked for the German Federal Ministry for Family Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women and Youth since 2007. He currently acts as head of the Division for EU Coordination and International Affairs. And from 2012 to 2016, he was posted to the permanent representation of Germany to the European Union in Brussels, where he headed the corresponding unit for Family Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women and Youth. Mr. Kemperhoff. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yes, thank you very much. Hello to everybody. And first of all, thanks again for the invitation. I'm really glad to be here and speak a little bit about our experience in Germany with our national youth delegate program. I don't want to be too long because I think there's much to discuss. So I just wanted to briefly give you an outline of our national program, which actually exists since 2005. So every year since 2005, we send 2 youth delegates to the General Assembly and also to the CSOC-D. The 2 current youth delegates are also here, Antonia and Lucas, if you just want to wave. And please correct me if I'm wrong, if I tell anything wrong about your experience. And please come and join me also for the discussion. So in Germany, we have 2 ministries, the Foreign Office and my ministry for Family Affairs, Senior Citizens, Women and Youth, who choose the 2 youth delegates every year. We do that in close cooperation with our National Youth Council and also the German associations for the United Nations in Germany. At the beginning of the term, which is from April to the end of March, almost more or less every term, they start with a 2-week training in our ministry and in the Foreign Office, so they can really see what people on the ground from the government, what we do and what the policy making looks like in Germany in the 2 competent ministries. And then one specificity also of the German program is the tour around Germany, which you do mostly during the summertime, before coming to the General Assembly in autumn, which means that the 2 youth delegates tour around Germany and collect ideas and questions from youth in general, but also from youth-led organizations, what their wishes and their demands are for or to the United Nations. And of course, or in Germany, the youth delegates are really free to choose their specific topics or the specific contact partners they want to meet. And this year, the 2 youth delegates, Antonia and Lucas, put a specific emphasis on marginalized youth groups and how can we put it, really to put an emphasis also on social inclusion, on the specific questions related to social inclusions. For example, you told me you went to see youth psychiatrics and also youth prison or youth imprisoned, people that are in prison, to see what their specific needs and views are. And this is also to really show the diversity of young people in Germany, because when you think about youth, or when people from outside think about youth, they might not always see that it's not only one youth. I mean, you can be young, but you can also be, there's men, women, LGBTI people, disabilities, minorities. There can be everything. So you really want to show and also put an emphasis on the diversity that of German youth, and then not only show them what the UN does, or give them a little insight into the work of the UN, but also collect their views and collect their questions and bring it here to the UN and also to the German government. And I can really say that I'm happy that they were here with us, or with me in that case, this year at the CSOC-D also, because we didn't only have the youth resolution, which was hard enough to negotiate, but also for example, the priority theme resolution, which had strong links to youth issues that are not always so visible to me also. So if I put a focus on youth in the youth resolution, I don't always have the sense perhaps of youth-related or youth-sensitive issues also in other resolutions, and this is really good to have them on board, and because they were sitting with me or behind me, and then I could check back with them and see, is that okay for us, or would we like to have some, or try at least to have some stronger language in some resolutions. And then the other aspect I wanted to highlight is that they are really on the ground during their tour in Germany, and can also show to the youth, or they can show us about the diversity of young people in Germany, but also show young people how they can engage and get really active at the different levels, not only at the local level, but also at national, regional level, and also here at global level. And I think this is really a good outcome and a good added value that we have with our national youth delegate program since for almost 15 years now. I think I would like to leave it there, not to take too much of our time, and thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much. We might have you also think about some examples from your rich experience working with the Youth Delegate Program, as well as working in your capacity at national level, about the programs run nationally that seek to include young people. So hopefully maybe that'll come out during the Q&A. I'd like to give the floor now to Fernando de la Mora, if I pronounce that correctly, a delegate from the Permanent Mission of Mexico working on issues related to social development and youth.
Thank you so much, and thanks to Wafuna and Dessa for the invitation. Much like my colleague, I'll speak a bit about the Mexican Youth Delegate Program, but specifically what it does is, in terms of social inclusion. For us, the Youth Delegate Program and social inclusion is not social inclusion for the purpose of social inclusion. Rather, it's inclusion for the purpose of innovation. When our program began, it was 1 delegate. Then we went to 2. Then we went to 3. Last year we had 6. And I'm pleased to say that we not only accomplished but exceeded gender parity with 4 women and 2 young men. But one of the innovative things that we did last year was to focus specifically on segments of Mexican society that often are overlooked. And 2 of our youth delegates were what are called dreamers. These would be DREAM Act recipients in the United States. So for those of you that are not familiar, these are youth that were brought to the United States through irregular migration when they were very, very young. In some cases, 2 years old, in some cases 3. And they've lived in the United States for a very long time. So culturally, they're very Americanized, if you will, but they also retain a strong link to Mexico. And in legal terms, they are, of course, Mexican citizens with a Mexican passport. And so we reserved 2 spots on the youth delegation for these youth. A lot of times we hear it's important to give youth a voice. We disagree. We think that it's not important to give youth a voice. It's important to give youth our ears. Youth already have a voice. It's the 21st century. You speak loud and clear. You're better connected than any of us were when we were younger. So rather than feeding into this narrative of giving them a voice, it's listening to those needs. So our process is run through the Mexican Institute for Youth in conjunction with the Foreign Ministry. There is an open contest that includes writing an essay, doing a YouTube video, going to interviews. Those that are selected then go through about a week training at the Foreign Ministry. They commit to doing a report and follow-up. And they're here for 1 month during the General Assembly. During that month, they give speeches, primarily in the second and third committee, but they're assigned throughout the different works. So some of them will cover Security Council, others will cover not just youth issues, but issues that go beyond, and they provide a fresh perspective, not only because they have fresh ideas, but because it allows us as diplomats to be more in tune with what their needs are. And much like Mark mentioned, we'll be sitting in the negotiations and we can consult with them. Is this enough? Do we need to push back stronger? So they negotiate on behalf of Mexico with our advice. They give the speeches that they help to write. And they also organize side events. For example, Mexico is the country that presents the biannual resolution on protection of children against bullying. Bullying was not a topic at the UN until we brought it forward. And what better way to have the youth delegates speak from national experience and organize this side event with the voices of other youth delegates. So they're integrally involved in the work of the mission. And currently, we're looking at expanding the youth delegate program further to also have specific spots for youth from the indigenous peoples in Mexico. And we'll want to include that. Now, the involvement, and this is very important, doesn't stop when they leave. Once they leave, we do a press conference at the Foreign Ministry where they announce what their projects will be once they go back. Usually, the youth delegates go back home very inspired and more knowledgeable about the 2030 agenda, about the challenges and opportunities that the United Nations offers. And they become, in a way, ambassadors of multilateralism, of international cooperation in their communities. And some of them do very focused projects on, for example, we've had on LGBTI involvement and rights. We've also had projects on the environment and on clean energy. So it's very varied, pardon the redundancy, in part because they're not all international relations students. We've also had engineers and architects, and it's looking at that variety that really enriches the program. So we'll look forward to continuing that and working, of course, with our colleagues in the Secretariat to make the youth program more and more meaningful, hopefully expanding it also to other countries. We think our model shows that it is possible, but more than possible, it's really in a way necessary, because the youth delegate program gives us the legitimacy to represent a country of 130 million people where the median age is 27. So again, youth already have a voice. All they need is for the UN to listen a bit more. Thanks.
Thank you, Fernando, for sharing Mexico's experience of the UN Youth Delegate Program and of its Youth Delegate Program, and also the ways in which you are trying to raise the bar of the program with those good examples, and mentioning, of course, we need to lend more our ears, and also for the efforts of giving more visibility and broadcasting and disseminating the issues that are important to them and the work that they are doing when they go back to their communities. I would now like to introduce our next panelist, Barbara Antonovichova. Is a youth delegate from the Czech Republic. She's a human rights lawyer and focuses on the rights of vulnerable groups of young people. Barbara?
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy that I could share some thoughts with you. I think I really agree what my predecessors have just said, but let me speak about the program from a kind of different approach, and I really think it's important to have this project because, for example, in Czech Republic, the young people are not so involved into the public affairs and civic engagement. So, with my colleague, we are trying to have some discussions with students, also some workshops on the SDG team, and we are trying to show them that this is maybe easier to to become more active, maybe than they thought before, and that they don't have to do something really big, but the small steps is enough to start a change. And if many people just do the little step forward out of the comfort zone, it may really have a great impact afterwards. And I really appreciate also that I have the opportunity to be here, even even if I have some special needs, because I see that's really important also for the students to see me when I'm lecturing them that everything is possible, and then that's if they want to, like, you can achieve almost anything, even with some little special needs and this kind of stuff. So I think the main thing of this project is to show the young people how the UN works, but maybe even more important is to show them it's really easy to become an active and to become an agent of change in the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, for sharing your perspective on the Youth Delegate program. Sure.
Yeah, I think with that I'm gonna turn on my mic. With that, I'm gonna open the floor as well for some questions and answers about the issue of inclusion and the role of young people, about youth delegate programs and what youth delegates can do, or how youth delegates can be agents of change. As we mentioned, there are many youth delegates in the room today, so I encourage you to lend your voices, and we'll in turn lend our ears. I would just like to note that we've come so far, as our colleagues were mentioning, to achieve inclusion and have youth delegates present. We've come a long way. It's sometimes easy to forget that in the past, our colleagues who are maybe a little older remember a time when we didn't have youth in the room at all. And now they've gone from being into the room to be a more diverse crowd to being a group that we not only encourage to speak, but we also lend our ears and listen to them as well. And that's only progressing at the UN more generally, and in the Youth Delegate Program, where we see young people from beyond the capital of the country, also young people from different groups, persons with disabilities. It's great to hear that Mexico is trying to include Indigenous youth as part of the delegation. So we've come a long way, and we have further to go. So with that, I'd like to open the floor for questions and comments. I have also seen something innovative once at a youth delegate event where a timer was used to keep questions and responses under a minute. So I'm going to try to do the same. Are there any questions, comments, or reactions maybe as well? Sure, go ahead. You might have to hit your mic button.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to hear this description of the Youth Delegate program and how much it has advanced over the course of the years. I do have a question. There are a lot of youth delegates who also come on behalf of civil society organizations here, to especially New York, and have experience both at their national level and also working in processes at the international level. And so my question is around whether there is any synergies or even opportunities for youth delegates to kind of interact, both to exchange information and share perspectives and insights. I think there's a lot of mutual support and learning that could happen. So I'm wondering if there are any spaces for youth delegates of member states and also youth delegates of civil society organizations here to kind of work and learn together, or even to create spaces together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe we'll take a few more and then see who can address them. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for your very interesting presentation. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the youth delegates for their involvement in the youth concern and challenges they have to face. Just a question. Germany told us that youth delegates participate to General Assembly and also to the CISOC-D. And what about, and also for Mexico and maybe other countries, what about the participation in the youth forum of ECOSOC? Thank you.
So, yes, there one more question in the back.
I'm curious about the training that all of you mentioned, and how do these training programs evolve? And it sounds really intense. Like, do the youth actually help design some of these training programs?
Thank you so much.
Okay. So I think we can take a first round of responses to the three questions. So spaces for interaction of youth delegates from member states and CSOs. What kind of participation do youth delegates have at the Youth Forum of ECOSOC? And do youth themselves help to design some of the trainings that are part of the youth delegate program? Fernando?
Thanks, and thanks also for the very good questions. I think on the first one, it's a very good point. There's youth delegates beyond that of the member states, and it's very much part of the reality in this building. It's very intergovernmental, yet civil society does play an important role in the work that we do. I personally am unaware of formal spaces as part of the youth delegate program where those two interact, which means make it happen, make it up. The part of the reason why we have youth delegates is to change things, and we don't change things by following the traditional UN protocols. You are the youth, you are the ones to innovate. We would be the first to send our youth delegates to a forum where the member state youth delegates and the civil society youth delegates can interact and exchange views and explore those synergies. So the fact that it doesn't exist and we see it there would be, in our view, an invitation to make it happen. With regards to the training and the design, in our case, the training is done through our diplomatic academy, and it includes several former youth delegates sharing their experience with those that are coming in, so they do have a say in the planning. That said, negotiation is something that is learned but can't be taught. You kind of have to do it to actually learn it. And so I would say that the majority of the real learning on the part of the youth delegates in our case happens on the ground, in the rooms, at the UN. But the program does evolve, and I think much like the actual diplomats that are posted here, you're never really 100% prepared for what's going to happen. But we do our best to make sure that they're aware. And the ECOSOC Youth Forum, I would just say that is a perfect example of an area where the Secretariat and the UN are actually ahead of member states. We now have the Youth 2030 Plan of Action, the Secretary General's Special Envoy for Youth, very much aligning and mainstreaming youth as part of the 2030 agenda, and yet we have member states still referring to a plan of action that was negotiated when I was a child for youth. And the needs of youth are simply different today than they were 2 decades ago. So the Youth Forum is absolutely a very good opportunity to participate, and we're looking into ensuring that we have Mexican youth participating there as usual.
Great, thanks so much. Just to echo what Fernando was saying in terms of the questions regarding a forum for civil society and national youth delegates, there isn't a formal one. In our experience, oftentimes youth delegates are able to meet other stakeholders throughout the process, either in the intergovernmental meetings themselves, at side events, or in the hallway. So it would be really interesting for us to pursue avenues to set up those meetings and opportunities. It is something we've thought up in the past, and I can bring that back and see what could be done as well. But to that point of, there are other young people in the room besides youth delegates. That's something very important to stress. Young civil society representatives, as well as young UN staff. There are definitely young people to bring forth those voices, and so it is not with the intention to say young youth delegates are the only group of young people. There are so many, and those invitations that go to member states actually encourage diverse participation on the delegations. It is up to member states to include persons on their delegations, and they often include youth delegates, representatives of civil society, and other actors as well. So that's something that happens commonly, and we can see what we can do to expand those spaces from our side in DESA. In terms of participation in the ECOSOC Youth Forum, youth delegates have developed to participate. A youth delegate is like a regular a member state delegate that participates and acts as a diplomat in international intergovernmental processes. The Youth Forum is an initiative of the president of ECOSOC and isn't an intergovernmental forum in the same way as a Commission for Social Development, a Commission on the Status of Women, the High-Level Political Forum, the Human Rights Council, of which those are all processes that youth delegates have participated in. And member states are, of course, invited to send youth delegates to the ECOSOC Youth Forum, and many do as well. Because it is a forum to feed into the high-level political forum on sustainable development. And it is a youth forum. And so I think our colleagues were mentioning it before, that youth don't only need to speak about youth issues. We've had young people also go to the conferences on oceans, and the UNCCC processes on climate change, because young people are also experts in those issues. And in addition can go to the youth forum. In addition, about the training programs, many national youth councils and United Nations associations are involved in the creation of youth delegate programs. And so you have young people influencing and training those trainings for young people and trying to establish that institutional memory. Any other questions? Yeah, please.
Sorry. Thank you very much. I would just like to add, because the question gave me an idea about the youth delegates of civil society organizations. As I said, our youth delegates are really free also in designing their programs, but and I don't know maybe how or when you meet other youth delegates besides the UN youth delegates, but they always initiate a side event each year, And maybe we can also try and set up a side event together with other youth delegates from civil society organizations, or have a second side event next year. But this is just an idea. This is what the youth delegates decides themselves. But this could be maybe an idea for next year. And just with regard to the ECOSOC Youth Forum, we actually used to send our youth delegates also to the Youth Forum, but the thing was that it was combined with the CSOC-D usually, and this year it overlaps a little bit with our procedure because the new youth delegates start in April, and this is exactly where the CSOC-D, where the Youth Forum will be this year. And besides this, for us, it's also the problem. The advantage was to, in linking the CSOC or the Youth Forum to the CSOC-D, that we could also have ministers, for example, coming to the Youth Forum and the CSOC-D. So to have the minister at the end of the Youth Forum, at least for half of it, for the day or so, and then for the opening, for the high-level opening of the CSOC-D. And this year the problem is, or even for me, I cannot come for the Youth Forum in April just for 2 days because it's just too short. A 2-day trip to New York, it's also too costly for the purpose, to be honest. But if you keep it linked to the CSOC-D, it's much easier for others to also come or to stay here. Once they come for the CSOC-D, they can stay 2 extra days for the Youth Forum. I mean, talking from the European perspective, it would have been much easier for us to have it that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, did anyone? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to echo the comments made by Mr. Kamperhoff. It's about the ECOSOC and the Youth Forum being on the same dates. It's really could have allowed more delegates to be present for the 2 events. In regards to the civil society organizations and the youth delegates, actually, as it was already mentioned, the youth delegates organize different events on different topics. And for example, we had the chance to share ideas with civil society organizations that participated in our events, which are on specific topics that are linked to our priorities, the things that we are working on in our countries. At the same time, during our stay here, we had the chance to visit our events organized by civil society organizations. So this was a very, very fruitful process. Youth delegates are public figures. They're well known in their country, so I would urge organizations to get in touch with them and discuss their priorities and try to feed them with information and important things that should be discussed during the CSOC-D, because as Mr. Rosmo mentioned, they're part of the delegation of their countries, and although that civil society organizations are present, they have a different status. So this is something very, very important, and new delegates are really looking forward and willing to work with civil society organizations.
Yes, a question?
To maybe comment on one of the questions. So, hi, my name is Antonia. I'm one of the German youth delegates. This is Lukas, my colleague. And when we heard about the idea of maybe having like a forum for the youth delegates of countries, but also of civil society organizations, what popped up in my mind was that maybe I would like to stress one point about our mandate. So we are official delegates with the German delegation, but we are also representing our National Youth Council back home, which is maybe the case for most of the youth delegates here. So we are kind of already the intersection between a part of civil society and the national delegation, which is quite an interesting mandate, I would say, personally. I also thought about that having those extra spaces for only youth to come together is always really enriching and interesting, but I feel like you also have to watch out to kind of, by framing something as a youth space, not making it difficult for others to kind of access it or take it seriously, because I feel that, I don't know if I can speak for all of you, but my experience is that at the UN level, not all states take youth delegates seriously yet. And by framing something as a space for only youth to come together and do their work and advocate and everything, delegates and states could just go and say like, well, this is for youth, like leave it there, it's nice. So maybe it's important to not forget that youth delegates from civil society and delegations should always interact on all levels, on all age levels, especially with the other counterparts.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that privileged and unique position that and complex position that youth delegates have of being really at the intersection of government, civil society, and young people. Yeah, so thank you. Do we have more comments, questions? We can take the first question in the back, because I think it's the first time, and then we had more questions. I just want to see you and, okay, 2, 3, 4. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Felipe Valente, and I am representing the New Humanity NGO. And my question is actually more to the youth delegates. And I would like to know if you work together with civil society organization to formulate this agenda and to elaborate those topics that we are aiming to achieve as a youth in the United Nations. And also, what happens when the program finishes and you come back home? What are your expectations, and what do you expect to do after this experience? Thank you.
So we had one more question, or maybe we can, from you? Okay.
Hello, my name is Cemre Balaban. I'm the Swiss youth delegate. I actually have no question. I just wanted to make some comments to the discussion. And thank you, Marisa, for the organization of the event, and for the panelists for your work. Just going back to your question, yes, we actually work with civil society organizations because they are very important on the national level. A lot of our NGOs work on the local, on the national level. And what we do, for example, is, well, in Switzerland, we are organized as 3 youth delegates every year. There are 3 youth delegates which are being chosen. And we also take into account that in Switzerland, we speak 4 languages, 4 official languages, and we also take into account that representatives come from different regions, that, for example, French and German parts and the Italian part are represented well. And we, for example, focused on the SDGs, and now currently we're working on getting in touch with NGOs to discuss about the SDGs and to have their inputs, what they think about the SDGs. For example, I am, I forgot the word, zuständig. I'm responsible, yes, sorry. I am responsible for the SDG 1, no poverty. And I get in touch, for example, with different NGOs which are specialized on addressing no poverty. And for example, I go and interview them, and I take their thoughts to the UN. So what I do is actually, I'm just working as a voice. I'm just trying to take the national demands to the UN. So in the end, for example, when I did my speech, when I wrote my speech for the CSOC-D, it was not just my own thought. I mean, I consulted different NGOs, I consulted youth organizations, youth parties. For example, in Switzerland, almost all parties which are represented in the parliament have a youth party. And we consult them what they think is very urgent, what we should stress in the Commission for Social Development. And for my example, it was the case on sustainable, on climate change. This was very important by all the organizations, and they had some demands, and for me it was important to get these demands to the CSOC-D. But in the end, what happens with these demands is another question, and this is also what we actually also want a little bit more power. I'm not sure whether I can talk in the name of all the youth delegates, but we actually also want the power to change something. We want to be included into the negotiations. I'm not sure whether every youth delegate is as included and integrated into the negotiation as they wish, but I think it's really urgent and necessary that we are really taking part, not just watching the negotiations, but really give some inputs, what we think about it, what we could change, it's important what we think about, and we should change it. So
sorry, I think I'm going to have to interrupt you. Just because we have about 9 minutes left, and we want to thank you so much for that input. We want to take a few more. So Dilian, I know you had a question or comment, but again, just reminding that we have about 9 minutes to the discussion. So to try to keep your question or comment relatively brief so that we can gather some more responses as well from the panelists and the audience as well. Yeah, Dilian and...
Okay, so thank you. My thing is actually a comment because our program is one of the oldest. And my advice is that all the programs should be, it doesn't matter if it's a youth delegates program, if it's a youth program from NGO sector, keep it more visible to the media, because a lot of the programs are tragically related to media. It was the case in the Bulgarian youth delegation case. So now with Javor, we are developing a scale on which to be way more productive in terms of connections to media, and use more your Facebook pages or Twitter or whatever it's popular, because the lives that you can do, like you can arrange live meeting with the people who are following you. It's very empowering, and also it connects people way easier than going around your country. Okay, physically meeting people is really nice, but it's not very cheap. So use the internet and use the media, please.
Thank you so much, Lillian. Just going to take a question over here. Yeah, question or comment.
Again, just a remark and a comment. I totally agree with my German colleague to keep the link between Youth Forum and the CSOC-D for different reasons, also for the youth resolution negotiation. And a remark, I'd like to add something. In the Council of Europe, in the Youth Department, we have a joint council with youth representative of National Youth Council or national NGO, and with representative of governments. And it is very interesting because it's a functioning co-management and co-decision functioning. It's totally unique in an international organization. In the Council of Europe, this is not extended. This is only the youth departments that have this kind of joint council, and not at all in other committees. But we try to have more participation. Thank you.
That sounds like a good example to replicate. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Lucas and then Pietro.
One small question. As we already mentioned, Antonia and I are the German youth delegates, and at the moment we are selecting the new youth delegates, and we try to spread the call for applications with as many people as possible. In our country tour, we try to reach especially marginalized youth, because we already thought about that they may be a group that should also apply for the youth delegate program. But when we look at the applications at the moment, but also in the past years, they're mostly white young people that are applying, mostly people without a migration background, mostly people with no disabilities. So I would like to have best practices how to make the call visible for also people with disabilities. For example, accessible website, because I think our youth delegate program doesn't even have a website that is accessible for people with disabilities. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Pietro, youth delegate of Italy. Thank you to all the panelists for the very interesting outlines of our programs and for trying to merge all of the differences our national programs have. I just want to point out, as you correctly mentioned, we do have a role in our in the national sphere as well, and I believe it is important to highlight the fact that our mandate implies that we shall get our youth closer to national institutions as well by representing, our national youth at the United Nations, somehow we do represent also national institutions, vice versa, flipping the whole thing in our home country. And yes, we are engaged with NGOs, as I think it's a common background for everyone, previous or current experience in any levels of civil society organizations, and that's, I think, is somehow intrinsic to our youth, young leaders background. Let me just conclude by pointing out, I don't know if it was mentioned, I missed it in that case, true empowerment. And Antonia correctly pointed out how somehow still here at the UN, youth delegates, which are officially part of their missions to the United Nations, they receive mandates most of the times from the Minister of Foreign Affairs, are not taken seriously. I had the honor, and I would like to thank my government for that, to be part of the negotiations for the resolution on programs and policies for youth this year at the CSOC-D. And surprisingly, I was the only youth delegate out of about, I would say, Marisa, please correct me, around 15 delegations present, 16 delegations present this year at CSOC-D. I was the only one allowed to take the floor. And I do not consider myself the most skilled and well-prepared youth delegate out of the group. So I just want to invite both DESA and UN system on a side to push for that, to try, to, if possible, to give some kind of recommendation, as it has been done before the CSOC-D, and to missions to actually, feel that. And, I had endless meetings at the permanent mission before every single informal, but it's not just a matter of trust, it's a matter of committing to the very last extent. Thanks.
Thank you for that very important comment as well. So briefly, in a few seconds, if we can have responses on those two last interventions. We have delegate programs who have been quite successful at including diversity and reaching a diversity of youth. So maybe you want to share your best practices and perhaps address also in disseminating the call and reaching those youth, and maybe addressing also the last comment in a few seconds.
Yes, thank you very much once again. On the question of how we can reach other youth groups, not only the white young people in Germany, I was really interested also, maybe we should also talk about that after the CSOC-D, because we don't have the answers either. We see the applications and we know that it's more or less every year the same, so we would be happy to have other countries' examples also. And on your question about the participation of the youth delegates, actually what we do in Germany, what I said, of course the youth delegates are part of the German delegation, but the national delegate is sitting in front and speaking, and we exchange with the two delegates and see about, or we meet before the meetings also and see what we can introduce on top of it and discuss during the meetings, but they are not officially included in the how do you call it, in the instructions, because this is among the ministries in Germany. This is what happens in Germany. And the argument was, if you include the youth delegates, you would have to include, like officially, of course they are here and we talk, but if we include you, then we would have to include 20 other organizations also that would come and then say, okay, we want to have a say also, and this would become an endless list. And this is the only reason. It's not that there's no commitment or so. So thank you.
Thanks. With regards to getting the word out to those that may not traditionally apply to the program, in our case, the call is coordinated through our Director General for Civil Society Affairs, and it's a four-pronged strategy where the call goes out through academia, through civil society, mass media, and social media. And that way we try to get as broad as possible of participation. It also gets sent out through all of our embassies and consulates abroad. But we think there's, of course, always room for improvement. So we do as best as we can, but certainly a challenge to reach those that are systematically marginalized and bring them to the front. And with regards to the involvement of youth in the actual negotiations, I couldn't agree more. It's certainly something that we do. It's a good practice, but it also falls very much into the dynamics of each individual member state. What we do is try to accompany the youth. Many times I've sat in the back while the youth delegate negotiates, and then if they have questions or anything, I'm there for them. And sometimes this helps this notion that's been said today about not being taken seriously, because the mission is absolutely there, backing them up, and they absolutely should be taken seriously, because no one at the UN speaks in their personal capacity. We're speaking on behalf of a member state, and that has its own weight.
Thank you so much. With that, I also wanted to make just one last comment of where these skills that you learn in negotiating, you mentioned that it's something that can be taught, but you learn by doing. And we've seen youth delegates go on to do amazing things, as we've seen youth from many different backgrounds and civil society organizations also continue on and do great things. Our Secretary General's envoy on youth is a former youth delegate from Sri Lanka. The former Swedish youth delegate was one of the chief young people to speak on at Davos. And one of the things that may not have been mentioned as much this time is the role of youth delegates in their home countries, working with their national governments, including them, on policy changes. And so they do seek that input and make those changes at a national level, at a regional level, and as well as at the international level. We have gone far. We still have far further to go. From DESA's side, we support member states and share those good practices, and we encourage the youth delegates as well in the room to try to showcase their examples of what works very well to other youth delegates and member states, and try to also seek examples of whether a civil society youth delegate or representative or other examples of what works better, what other people are doing better, and see if that could be integrated as well. Any last comments?
No, just adding on to what you had said of the work that young youth delegates and continue doing at their country level. A very strong example we had is the Finnish youth delegates, who basically were able to convince their governments to establish Alliance, which is a network of youth organizations in support of the youth peace and security agenda. And we see this as a concrete example of the involvement of young people in policy making, basically because this resulted in the first ever national action plan on youth peace and security that was launched as a result of that advocacy from the youth delegates. So that's something that we're looking at a country actually going forward with an action plan on a specific agenda that is gaining increasing importance at the international level. So we want to basically disseminate all of these great examples going forward.
I'm just going to highlight one last time the one-pager, actually more accurately a two-pager about the Youth Delegate Program that was circulated with our contact information, as well as the links to both DESA's and WAFUNA's website for any questions about the Youth Delegate Program. And I also encourage you to go to the websites as well, because there's much other information about DESA's and WAFUNA's work on youth nationally, regionally, and internationally. Thank you so much to our panelists for adding your voices and also your ears, and to my co-moderator, and also the youth delegates and Barbara for having participated. We'll all be available afterwards for questions as well. Thank you.